I want to again welcome everyone to the Day of Code Recap webinar. We hope to inspire you to recognize that coding is fun, perhaps a little challenging, but can certainly be accessible for all, and hopefully in the process, inspire some of you to consider hosting your own Day of Code event in your community. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my co-host Leslie to talk a little bit more specifically about the Day of Code and with a lot of special guests. So thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Day of Code recap as part of the National Coding Symposium. We were so lucky to expand this into 5 host sites around the country this year, including Pennsylvania, West Texas, California, Tennessee, and Maryland. A variety of schools for the blind, groups of teachers, tons of different kinds and ages of students. And I really hope that this is a good opportunity for others to get some ideas and get energized about possibly doing something like this in your area. If you are interested in learning more, or you're ready to host a day of code, please reach out to me and I am happy to discuss it with you. So let's jump right in here because we have a lot of things to get through. Uh, First of all, we have to thank our very, very generous sponsors, the Fox Family Foundation, as well as the PPG Foundation. They are the main sponsors for all things National Coding Symposium and Day of Code. And we really appreciate their years of support for these events and hopefully continued support. Because we are offering ACVREP credit for this, I have a few learning objectives. So one is explore at least 3 activities where students who are blind or visually impaired can experience coding concepts. I think we will hit more than 3. 2, identify at least 3 areas of the ECC that coding fits into. Again, I think that's going to be an easy one. And 3, discover at least 1 resource to follow up on. Believe me, there's a lot. uh, all right, so moving right along. The road to code, as we've been calling it at the American Printing House for the Blind, is exactly that. We are trying to provide materials and services and resources for students and adults, as well, to experience, to learn that this is a pathway to a career. This is something that you can do. Uh, if you have been told, coding is really not for those who are blind or visually impaired, that is incorrect, and we want you to find all of the resources and encouragement that you can. Every year in December, we are having the National Coding Symposium, which I hope many of you joined. If you not, it was recorded and is on our YouTube channel. And and please look at our website for more information and updates. And there is a QR code on the page that will take you straight there. So now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first guest speakers from the Western Pennsylvania School for Blind Children, Holly Russell, to tell us about your day of code.
Hi, my name is Holly Russell, and like Leslie said, I'm from the Western Pennsylvania School for Blind Children, and I'd like to introduce my colleague, and my friend Patrice Puccelli. We worked on this together. Honestly, Patrice did almost all of the work. So we had a wonderful day with our day of code. Leslie, if you can take us to the next slide, I can tell you a little bit about our students. So you can see there we had it set up all in our multi-purpose room there. We had, Leslie, if you want to go ahead and flip a slide or two. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. That's perfect. So what we did is we have on-campus programming, and Patrice is the AT specialist for our on-campus programming. And we focused on our middle school department. So our middle schoolers start in early middle school, about 4th grade, and they go up to about 8th grade. So we focused on those students who are learning at our school and they have complex medical needs. And we combined that group with our outreach department, and our outreach department receives services in their home school districts. So we got all those kiddos together, and they loved being together. They had so much fun. Some of them are already friends, and so they were really excited when they got to see each other in the very beginning of the day. We put them into a couple of different groups. We put them into, and Patrice can tell you more about this, but into groups that were what we called errorless, and the other groups that were really putting together some pieces of code. We started off with some warm-up activities, and like I said, they were thrilled to be together. So they started with kind of a breakfast and just like a getting to know you activity. And then we had a whole bunch of warm-up activities for them. They did some iPad things. They did just some initial putting together code, just the, the very beginning, the very basics of what they were going to be working on. Leslie, if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you. Go ahead, Patrice.
Okay. Okay, I will jump in here. Hi, everyone. I'm Patrice, and one of the rooms that we had set up for was the code jumper, and we actually had 2 rooms set up for this. So one room was more of an errorless room where students can explore the pods, putting them together, hearing the different animal sounds, which they really loved, as well as like different songs. And I think some of them even moved into some story stuff. And they just had a good time just exploring those and playing around with the sounds and speeding them up, slowing them down, just putting them together and enjoying that. Our other group was some of our outreach students who worked more on being able to do some more independent stuff, and worked with Leslie, I think, even more on putting the pods together in a sequence and creating, whether it be the poems or the stories, I believe they might have done as well. So that was a lot of fun. I know a lot of the kids, you could see the smiles on their face. They really enjoyed what they were able to do with that activity. Okay, next slide. The next one was our Code and Go mouse, and we had this set up in our gym. And we had a couple of the Code and Go mouses on the table set up so that some students could independently create their own maze and figure out how to program the mouse to move through the maze that they created. We had a maze that was already set up. We used tactile symbols to have students follow along the sequence of the tactile symbols to go in the direction to get to the cheese. So we had a couple options for students to explore at the table. And another option we had was the students could physically move through an obstacle course and follow along the sequence of the directions to get to the cheese at the end. So we had this little obstacle course set up in the gym that students could move 2 spaces forward to the right, and get to the cheese at the end. So that was another really fun activity, and gave students an opportunity to feel with their bodies the directions And we did have an orientation mobility specialist help out with that as well. Okay, the next slide. This is our dance boogie. We had a couple activities with this, one being we had it as an iPad app, but it's also an internet search for the code boogie. And this was an opportunity for some students to be able to sequence different dance moves and make the elf dance. And this program has a simple version that is airless that you can make up the dance that you want to make up, or one that's a little harder that you have to follow the sequence that they set out for you, and it gets harder with each time, so that if you make a mistake, if there's an error, you have to go back and kind of figure out where that mistake was and fix it. The nice thing about this, some of our students with no vision, it did not go along with voiceover, but the students with no vision enjoyed that the different dance moves made different sounds for those dance moves. So they were able to follow along with the dance moves that way. And the other section of the dances that we did another physical activity where students as a group, one student could create a dance using the sequence of steps and everyone would follow it. So that picture on the left is showing everybody following one of the dance sequences that a student made up, and that was a lot of fun too. Next slide, yes. Yep, this one, the iPad fun. This was our Code Quest. We had tables set up with the Code Quest game on several iPads, giving students an opportunity to look at this game and explore it on their own with the help of their teachers or by themselves. We did have a fun story about one of our nonverbal students who was working with the teacher to figure out how to use the game. The teacher didn't know how to use the game, so they were both kind of trying to figure it out. And as they were working, he did not give up. He worked so hard to figure out how this game would work, and he did great until he got to the point he couldn't get past the wall and didn't know how to break down the barrier of the wall, and worked and worked and worked to figure it out. And he truly figured it out on his own and was so excited. The look on his face and, cheering for himself and making sure everybody knew that he figured it out was so much fun. It was so rewarding to see all the fun that the kids had with this activity, and we just can't wait to do it again. Okay, the next slide.
Yeah, so we worked in our expanded core curriculum skills. Obviously, they had to have lunch, but we set up the lunch table so that, of course, they would practice their pouring skills and their scooping skills, and, really all of the skills that we could integrate in there. Certainly socialization was a big part of that. Like Patrice said, they were cheering for each other for the games, doing the dance together. Also, of course, self-determination was worked into there, and the O&M. So the O&M was worked in through the gym with the activities that they did there, and then just throughout the whole day. So it was really nice to do the coding and to see how the students responded, and then all of the things that we could integrate into the day of code. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we have future plans. Patrice is already thinking of some activities for the teachers and more games and more things that we can do for our students on campus, just to help them further their understanding of code and be able to develop those skills even more. And we just wanted to say thank you so much. We had a wonderful time. Our students loved it, and we're very, very grateful that you helped us to participate in that day.
Yes, thank you.
That's fabulous. And I love the very clear metaphor of the student breaking down the barrier. Most excellent. I had a blast. I was incredibly impressed on how you met all of your students where they were at and not only had them participate, but facilitated them trying new things and reaching new goals. It was really beautifully done. So thank you for
Thank you.
participating.
Thank you.
All right. So our next guests are from West Texas, uh, ESC 14, and I think Brenda Lee is going to have to explain what ESC 14 is.
Yes, thank you. This is Brenda Lee, and ESC is for Education Service Center. In Texas, we have 20 service centers around the state, and we don't have students. It's just, adults. We're consultants, and I am the vision consultant. So we have 42 schools in our region, and we have, so I help create activities to cover ECC, and we have students that come either to the Education Service Center or we meet at a church sometimes that we do cooking at. So we try to meet at least 4 times a year with students, and we try to kind of cover all the different, either academic or some of the kiddos that have more complex needs, and we split them up junior high and high school. So ours is probably a little bit different from that. So we have a lot of kids kind of coming through and going through our technology day. I wanted to share that Hillary Miller is on with me. She's our digital technology consultant here at the ESC. And we have partnered together for at least the last 6 years. Hillary's been here 6 years. And we just provide a coding day for our students, a technology day for our students to come in and try out different technology, different ways. We want them to experience all kinds of different things to kind of look at what they might be interested in. This year, if you want to go ahead and show the first slide. We kind of put a little, I'm gonna let Hillary talk about the service station. We call it the service station. And Hillary, I'll let you go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you. So the R14 service station is our version of a makerspace. So like Brenda was saying, we do mainly professional development of teachers, but we also have a makerspace where students can come and have field trips. And so Brenda said that we had been working together for the last 6 years, and she came to us and said that she wanted to incorporate in one of her 4 days a technology day and wanted to have some stations that were focused on coding as well as getting some of their other skills in. So our very first day that we had kind of focused on half of the day they were out doing technology. The other half they were working on their white cane day as well as working with their monoculars. And so we kind of just made some stations. But this day, this is our VI Tech Day from this year. And every year we have a theme. And this one was called Tech Through the Eras, kind of on a Taylor Swift theme. And every room kind of had like some different music going on in the background, some 50s and 60s and 70s. We also had like a silent disco for the students to participate in to get them going and excited about the day. And then on our coding stations, we had Stephanie come and help us too. She had a station with finches, and they were coding. We had Kai bots. That is with Kai's clan. The Kai bots have Braille cards that you're able to lay out, and the robot can go and code. So those are a great thing that we added this year. And then we have Sphero Indies, and so we made everything accessible by adding Braille to any of our stations and things that the students needed. Brenda, is there you want to go to the next slide?
Let's go to the
You want
next
to add
slide.
anything? Okay. So this was our flyer that we sent out to our schools, and they could sign up. So we had half a day where the elementary came in the morning, and then we had junior high in the afternoon. So overall, we had 41 students, 13 teachers, and 4 parents. And then these are some of the things. So up there in the top left hand, that is the little Kai bot with the Braille cards. Then the blue little Sphero Indy has the color tiles, and we add Braille to those tiles. And then we had these E-blocks down at the bottom that they were able to fit together and build an FM radio where it would play sound for them. And then, of course, the Finches that Stephanie had. Can you go back one more, please? Okay, so these are our past VI Tech days. So we had a tech treasure hunt, and there's a YouTube video there that kind of shows some of the things. And then we had an amazing race where everything was done at each station. They finished some coding and had some answers, and it was kind of like an amazing race where they got a clue at it. And they each had a 3D printed piece that in the end, after they went to all the stations, it fit together and it made a mousetrap. And the kids had that, and it had a little maze in it that had a ball that they could hear rotate around. And then we had a lights, camera, action day that was focused on the students made videos. They had little selfie sticks that they could take around and create videos throughout the day. And then in 23, we had a game on. Brenda really wanted them to learn how to just play normal games. So we had Braille Uno. You want to talk about some of those games, Brenda?
We just added Braille to like shut the box. That was one of them. But so many of our kids were having trouble just socialization, just sitting down and playing some games. So that's kind of why we just designed it around every room was a game. So they enjoyed just traveling around. So since we have so many students, we put them in groups, and then the groups travel around to the different rooms and the different stations. At the Amazing Race, we used the Colby, we call him the Colby mouse, the go, like the mouse that you used a while ago. And then we've used the
Colby's the Code and Go, what y'all
coding,
refer to as the
that's
Code and
it, the
Go.
Code and Go. And the code jumpers, we use that one a lot on the lights, camera, and action. And we're able to do that. We also, I don't know if y'all have ever used the spectrums. The kids love those too, because you can, if y'all are familiar with spectrums, if you're not, look those up because they're little rings that read the color. And so our students could play the piano with it. They could play, they went way beyond what we had designed. You know, they went far into it.
The spectrums also have some learning cards with it that besides just playing the sounds, they're like storytelling. So they have sound effects. So the kids could tell a story, and once they heard a sound, they could then explain what happened. The door creaked, or you know, there's a ghost that went into this house and the person was scared. And they could hit the button that, or put the code, or
The code. They love
yes,
that
they
one.
could do the ring on top of the color that would do the screaming or whatever sound effect. And so we have some cute videos of the kids making their own stories that were, little Michaela was precious with her story. And so then last year we did the Mario Madness. So we had an obstacle course they had to guide each other through and cheer on, like Mario, where they would jump up at the end on his little trampoline and try to catch the flag. And just some other various games that were all Mario themed and coding activities.
And then these are just some of the pictures. This was the lights, camera, action, I believe, and they had to dress up and they had to tell a story. They had to write a script. They had to work together.
Each group had a specific, like the pirates were all a group. So they all dressed as pirates at the very beginning of the day. And then we had the beach group. And then on the next slide,
the
we had
princesses.
the princesses, and then we had the astronauts or the space group.
It was kind of determined by what costumes we had, which groups we were going to have.
We had a Minecraft group, and then we had the community heroes group.
Heroes, yeah. So when we added in that Stephanie came down this year, we've been talking about extending our sessions. Our session times were between 15 to 20 minutes. And we realized that we really need to extend them to focus more on the actual coding. We've done the, pre-coding a lot Hillary, haven't we? You know, where they laid out different games in different ways so they could figure out to really learn what coding is. And then we talked about next year really getting with Stephanie and creating our day more with a lengthier session, I guess. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, so most of the coding we do, like with the Spiros, it is like the pre-coding and like the introduction to it. With the Finches, they were actually doing the block coding. Because of time in the past, we haven't been able to do that as much. And like Brenda said, we are really wanting to look at doing that, especially with our junior high and high school kids a little more,
Yeah.
with
And
some other activities.
when they were with the Finch in that session, a lot of the kids some of them were struggling, but they were working together as a group to figure it out. And they were going to get that Finch through the obstacle course and have it come out the end. And several of them were, you know, we're talking about joining their school's coding classes, you know, taking there's different groups that they can join. And so I really feel like it inspires some of them to go back and, you know, at least talk to their teachers about joining those groups. And several of them were already in it. So they were talking to some of the other kids because all our kids are from, like I said, 42 different schools all around. So they're not even in the same school district a lot. You know, our largest school, we have a big group that comes from the local largest school, but then the rest of them might be one or two students out very rural might be the only student with visual impairment, you know, in their whole school.
And going off of what Brenda said about trying to get this out in the schools, the great thing about our service station makerspace is that we have a checkout program. And so any of the robots and activities that we have, the students and the teachers are able to check them out. So after we preview some of these through the tech day, they're able to check them out for 2 to 3 weeks at a time to go through that again and to continue learning. And so we're kind of the taste of it, I guess you can say, like the teaser,
Yep.
so that we can try to get it into the classrooms more.
Yes.
So they have full access to check those out.
Hi, everybody. This is Stephanie. And I just wanted to say all the work that Brenda and Hillary did in the past made working with the Finch in these groups so easy because they already had the concepts. They had done the offline work and they just dove right in. They weren't scared or worried about it at all. They were ready to go.
And I think that's it. Thank you, Stephanie. We really appreciate you coming in and working with us. It was awesome. We're looking forward to next year.
Yes, thank you very much.
That is fabulous. And that's exactly what I wanted to hear, was that the students went back to their schools and their teachers and went, you know, I might be interested in taking a class or joining a club and exploring this more. Excellent. Thank you very much. And we need to talk. We need to talk some more. Next up, we have the California School for the Blind and Allison Mello. Come on down.
Hi, thanks, Leslie. I'm Allison, and at CSB, we just completed our third day of code on campus. And they keep getting better each time. And we had Leslie join us. That was super cool this past year. And I would say that our day of code, so we have our on-campus students, and it hovers between 50 to 55 in the most recent years. And our day of code is a campus-wide event that they all participate in. And then we also open it up to any blind or visually impaired student across the entire state. So we start inviting out in August or September to make sure that if any student from far and wide wants to join, they have the opportunity to make that work out for them. And we actually had 2 students who came from Orange County this year. Those were our furthest students that we had, and we had a total of about, I don't know, maybe 70. It was a good turnout. So we do a combination of screen-based and unplugged or non-screen-based activities. And we use all technology. We use Braille notes, we use iPads and robots and computers. And we kind of get our curriculum and activities from a whole host of places. First, I'd like to say my team of assistive technologists we're 4. So we all kind of collaborate together to bring out new activities or decide on activities for the day. And we usually settle on about 5 or 6. 5 typically have lesson plans, and then we set up something called a curiosity station where we lay out robots, and we typically have the Code and Go mouse there, and we have these things called cubelets, and you can build robots. They're like robot Legos essentially. And it's just like this place for students to have a free exploration. And then we also, my team, my coworker Max and I have created a curriculum that we kind of bounce off from. And we created that curriculum, and it's kind of teaching the foundational skills. So like sequencing and pattern building and computational thinking and logic, that teaches the foundations of CS. And I'm going to put it in the in the chat box because I don't think it's in the PowerPoint. And we use this for screen-based and unplugged activities, and kids just have a lot of fun, and our teachers get involved. And so when we have students who come from off campus, they typically are accompanied with a TVI or parent, and kids are broken up into groups based on skill level. We try to make something for everyone, so we don't necessarily want our students who are enrolled in APCS, because we've had a couple, to be doing the same activity that a student who, maybe like an elementary student whose first interaction with a robot is going to be during our day. So we divide students based on skill level, and when students register for the day, we ask a bunch of background, what their level is with tech, and decisions for where they are placed. And especially for our outside students, we want them to interact and make friends. So we want, the high schoolers to hang out with other cool high schoolers, and to make new friends that'll last years, and maybe next year they'll come back and see the same students that they hung out with last year. Categories are students on campus, and then we try to fit them in with our guests. It's an all-day event. We've been lucky enough every year to have Humanware come in, and they help teach Braille note coding with these microbit robots and using Python, which is still far above my head, even though we've offered it 3 years in a row. I still don't get it, but Python is there. And then we've had a couple of Googlers come in to just be volunteers and support. So we've been really lucky to have some really fun guests who've added to our day. We're really looking forward to next year, and I really enjoy just hearing everyone else's descriptions of their days. It's making me really, really excited for next year. Like I said, this was our 3rd one. It was definitely our best. We kind of categorized students based on tech related, I don't know, jobs or descriptors. So we had our builders group, we had our innovators group, we had our tinkerers group. So kind of like tech related words, but we tried to make it sound like, you know, these categories that we're giving you, that these activities are in these categories that you're participating in are applicable. And every activity ends with these moments of big success. And it's always such a really big joy to see all of our students engaging, especially the teachers who leave our campus, our guest teachers who are like, I didn't know anything about coding. And I'm like, me either, before I started working here. So it's really exciting to have that opportunity to share that this is totally entry level, which is why we made our curriculum, because if we want to encourage other districts and campuses to do these kind of events, I feel like we should offer what we've learned and like a point of entry. And so I'm really excited that we're getting to share that right now. And I'm looking forward to next year. I hope Leslie comes again.
Well, thank you. I had a lot of fun. I hadn't gotten the opportunity to play with the Dash robot before, and I had been wanting to. So I got to hang out with a bunch of students, and the high schooler group, they decided they wanted their robot to go out the door, and it kept hitting the door frame. So them problem solving and working out the math concept of the angles was really fun to watch unfold. And then a younger group who wanted their robot to dance, one student said, you know what, I wrote this song on GarageBand, let's have the robot dance to that. So they got to bring up their own skills and interests and relate it to coding and see how there's all this adjacent to coding things that knowing this basic level of knowledge can be good and supportive of. It was great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see next. So we jumped from the West Coast back towards the East. We're going to the Tennessee School for the Blind. And Dr. Alan Wong, please join us.
Hello and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alan Huang. I'm an administrator here at the Tennessee School for the Blind, over the State Resource Center for the Visually Impaired, outreach services, as well as admissions. And this year, right before the holidays, we had the great pleasure of putting on an inaugural, hopefully, first of many Day of Code here at the Tennessee School for the Blind in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, though today is quite cold, Nashville, Tennessee. You know, just to kind of situate and paint the picture of how our day went, we are a public state special school with an enrollment that typically is somewhere between 120 and 130 students from all across Tennessee. We have both students who come as day students, as well as a residential program for those who live farther out from the Middle Tennessee region. And we have students of all abilities, you know, pretty highly academic students, as well as other students who are also, you know, just as academic, but with complex needs and things of that nature. And so when we were kind of approached about putting on a day of code, we were really excited because we love big events. We believe that children in this population, our students, should be exposed and given the opportunity to do, you know, get exposed to the things that are out there in the real world. What is current? What is being done by, you know, just what's you know, what are those hot topics, right? And so coding is absolutely one of those things. And then personally, I have a background as a TVI and an assistive technology specialist. And, you know, I've personally worked with students who would come to me and say, oh, I'm a gamer. I love computers. I'm really good with all this. And so I'm gonna be a game designer when I grow up. But then when we would work together on their, you know, fundamental technology skills, typing, you know, not very exciting necessarily, but then it would take them, you know, more than 5 minutes to email me back a prompt in class. And I would say 5 minutes is an eternity when we're talking about communication through those means. And so just to paint that picture of, we want to really show our kids and expose them to opportunities that meaningfully show them what it looks like to have the right thought process and the fundamental skills to be able to get into this field. And again, also to show them that this is a field that is wholly accessible to them, which I firmly believe. So I don't remember what my next slide is here, but just to kind of share again, we have a fairly large school, and so with students of all ages, all abilities. And so how we kind of organized our Day of the Code was, it was a half-day event, and we had our students broken down really by the classes and 8 grade bands that they are naturally in. We used our typical groupings in that sense, which helped. And in half a day, really charged and empowered our teachers to take a variety of ideas that we tried to put before them using APH products. We shared a lot of resources that the California School for the Blind had already published, which was fantastic, and really said, take all these ideas. Our goal is to, expose and teach fundamental computer science principles, and let kids know that, things like sequencing, if-then functions, compiling things together, debugging when we make mistakes. It's not just over. We can go back and figure out what went wrong. So we empowered our teachers to take all these ideas and, knowing their students best, take some of the resources we've shared and come up with lessons that they would essentially have students rotate between 2 different groups. And so 2 different activities. And so here, this student here is in one of the classrooms where a number of the students have additional complex needs. And here's some light up blocks that can kind of really illuminate and have that motivation on that high contrast black background. The student was assisted to kind of put together a heart, right? And then found that quite motivating. And to be able to kind of understand that, a final product is only the product of many steps as well as many components. Let's see what else we got. In the same classroom, if you can see what we got going on here, these are nutcrackers, from very normal nutcrackers all the way to a Lego nutcracker. And how this activity was set up for students was the component parts of a nutcracker were taken apart. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a brown face all the way on the left of that yellow tray. There's a cylindrical black hat kind of in the middle, and then the student himself is holding the red body, right? And so the student was kind of assisted to understand that in the right sequence of putting those parts together, that creates a nutcracker. All the while, there were those real examples to kind of, draw some comparisons and similarities too. All right, another picture of kind of that workspace and what we put together. We'll move on. All right, so getting over into one of our younger student classrooms, you can see these students were playing with Legos. And so this was kind of a beginning stage of the activity in this classroom. The students actually built, I believe it was like a castle or some kind of structure that they then, when we were popping into this classroom, we observed them actually coding. This was a classroom where the teacher really went above and beyond with the ideas of coding. I believe the teacher actually had a brother who's in the field, and so when she shared with him that this was coming up at our school, she got a whole lot of ideas from him, and he actually recorded some videos for her to show that we shared with the rest of our school that kind of explained the basics in kid-friendly language about what coding is all about. And so they developed these structures in Lego and then kind of described it in a website. I believe the platform that the teacher even found was, I think she used W3 Schools, that website. It's a pretty well-known learning platform and accessible enough from what I saw. And the students, instead of just writing, in a Word document, on a Braille writer, the students were, able to type their story components into that platform and then see it in a web page. They literally made their own websites right in that little activity. So that was really fun. Let's see what's next. All right, same classroom. And so here on the table, you can see some HTML tags were written on the table in dry erase, I hope. You can see the H1 heading tag with Capel's Target, which was probably the title of his story. The other student on his Braille writer. So depending on kind of how our students produce their work, some of them did Braille the, they did Braille their stories instead of typing into the platform, but all the same, they were taught, this is how you do less than sign, H1 greater than sign, right? So they're literally brailing the same things that you would otherwise type if you were entering HTML code. And I was really just so impressed by the thought process of, believing that children of this young age can understand that this is how it works. This is what goes into it, right? And so that was fantastic. All right, just another picture of our students doing that work, thinking through, okay, what needs to happen to have a correctly formatted HTML, setup. I'm not a coder myself, so forgive my lack of correct language here. Let's keep going. All right, another picture of the students hard at work with the Legos that they had used, being on the website, either brailing or typing or still building their structures. All right. Now here, so for most of our teachers by default, we kind of offered them the primary activity options just to lighten the load of that burden of thinking about how to go about this whole process. We kind of empowered them to check out using the APH Code and Go mouse with Colby the mouse that, with all those arrows for programming in directions and reaching the cheese, and what a motivating sound it makes when it finds the cheese. This group of kids had just been guided through a successful navigation of the puzzle, and just a picture of just how fun these kinds of activities, however simple we as adults might, and God forbid, we might cynically think of these kinds of opportunities. It's so meaningful. So I would encourage anyone who has any interest in this to just go out and do it. Again, just a picture of the joy across all of our students, from young to old. We finished the day with students and teachers just buzzing about what they had been doing. And in a sec, I'll finally stop rambling and let Alicia chime in too about what she saw when she visited us. But here are some slightly older students, but still thinking really logically, detail-oriented. Like the student in the top left corner sitting cross-legged, he is like zeroed in on what his peer is doing, like analyzing, is that right? Is that what I would have done? Really just they were so focused. They took it seriously. They were not joking around, taking this for granted. And so again, kids will eat this up and really take a lot away from it. All right, the other default activity we offered up to our students was the Snap Circuits RC Rover, which was super fun as well, because it's really nicely accessible in terms of how instructions and understanding how to lay out the snap circuit pieces on top of the grid board, the grid pegboard. And so this student is, got right to it. In some of these places, as my teacher background, I think in terms of a lesson plan and setting the scene and then presenting and explaining everything. And sometimes the students, by the time I kind of saw what was going on, they were just in there, like, just give me the manual, man. Just let's do this. And you saw just away it went. And again, this was another one that was really, really fun, especially, well, really across all ages who were exposed to it. Here we've got students in the hallway, just kind of making sure that remote control was doing what it was supposed to do, running up and down the halls. Let's see, there was another picture here. And this one, I found out from this teacher when I got this picture that they had actually put their two together. And then I don't know if anyone's familiar, if you're of a certain age, there was a show called BattleBots, and this teacher clearly was of that generation. And they took their RC rovers and did a little, bumping back and forth action, bumper robots, and had a lot of fun in that sense too. Just kind of enjoying the outcome or the final product of their successful work putting these devices together. So it was pretty funny to see all that. That's me and Alicia, and I'll take a step back. I mean, Alicia, is there anything that you'd like to speak to from the time that you were with us?
No, Alan, I just want to point out to our attendees or someone who may be watching and considering of hosting a day of code. When I first met with Alan, I assured him, all great things start small. And he says, okay, it's our first year. And then the next time that we spoke, he put in his t-shirt order, and it was for over 100 t-shirts. And I was so excited to see the whole school. Alan introduced the Day of Code to them. He empowered the teachers with resources, and the entire campus, from administration all the way down to the kitchen staff, the janitorial staff, embraced it and supported it. And it was really exciting to see the whole campus show the learners on campus that the sky's the limit. We're all coders. Dancing is coding, and technology can take you anywhere. And in this picture, I'm wearing an astronaut suit, and I had stepped out of my comfort zone for the kids to show them that, and to spark conversations about coding, and to make sure that they know, no matter their challenges, that coding can be an inclusive experience, and is something that we do every day. And it very, very exciting to see how the teachers collaborated. One of the pictures, Alan featured a speech language pathologist, had worked very closely with the teacher to make the activity accessible to all the learners in the classrooms using picture board and objects for communication. So, and one other fun thing that we did, we at lunch, we shared space snacks with the students in the lunchroom. And so further having conversations and incorporating, I think one of our other participants shared incorporating the ECC into the day, and having engaging conversations about coding and, astronauts and space food, and just trying new things and having fun. So I look forward to TSB's next year, and
Yes, yeah, we're really excited, and I think I would just close with saying, we're really pleased with how this first year went. It's kind of scary when it's a whole school event. You're not sure how all your teachers are going to buy into this sort of thing, but they wholly did. And in terms of teachers buzzing, they had so many thoughts about, oh, well, next year, well, I'm going to do it this way, or there's an idea I already have for what I would do instead of just these activities that you laid out for us. So we're really excited to see how we can dive further, have opportunities to really let our students dive into the actual coding experience, talk about accessibility to actual coding language, coding, and then also seek out partners in the community. We're fortunate in Nashville, Tennessee to have a huge, corporate hub of all sorts of stuff, including the tech sector. So we're, sky's the limit in terms of how those partnerships can manifest, the kinds of speakers we can bring in to speak to successful involvement in the tech field by people who are blind and visually impaired. So I will stop ranting, but really thankful that we were able to partner with APH on this, and we are indeed excited for the next one.
And I wanted to thank Leslie. We weren't able to bring Leslie to the Tennessee School for the Blind, but we were creative and thought outside the box. And she created a recorded Zoom message that helped kick the day off that was aired throughout the school. And so that was something I think unique that we did on campus to help get the day started. So thank you, Leslie, for helping get the entire campus and the event started. I think that really added to the excitement of the day.
Yeah, I am happy to help in any way. I am so thrilled that so many people have come forward and like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a try. And then they see how it can grow. And I love that, Alan, you're already considering how you can build on this. Alicia told me a story about one of the students that built a dog hospital with the Legos and
Mhm.
then coded his own website for the hospital. So that is this perfect bridge of how coding would work IRL, you know. So um, thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you again on this. Okay, so we are doing great. Our last segment for this recap is a series of videos done through the Maryland School for the Blind and Gina Fugate. So I will just preface this first video. We have some interviews with students and some demonstrations of some products. And this should be an excellent finish off to the day. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Gina Fugate, computer science and technology teacher here at the Maryland School for the Blind.
Hi, I'm Ebony. I'm a 10th grader.
So Ebony, you've actually done robotics for a couple of years. Could you share some of your experiences?
When I was in middle school, I did a thing that's called First Lego League. It's basically a robot race, like you have to do a bunch of challenges.
Exactly. So the robot game in First Lego League is only 2.5 minutes, and you did that in middle school. So we used to use the Lego EV3 robot, and recently Lego and First Lego League had changed over to Spike. So we're happy to announce that the Lego EV3 robot that we used to use, we still have those, but we're happy to announce that we can now work with Spike, which is what Ebony's going to be demonstrating today. Take it away. There's your Spike robot, and you're going to press and hold that button to turn it on. So we usually hold it for about 3 seconds. It gives some audio feedback, and then it displays an LED heart on the bot. And then Ebony has her Spike robot hooked up to the laptop, and she's in Form Studio. And while she adjusts her code, I have a similar code in the background on the TV screen. So this is Quorum Studio, and this is in the blocks mode. And just as a reminder, Quorum can be magnified. And you can decrease that magnification, so you can zoom in and out. And this block-based programming also works with screen readers, so that makes it extremely unique because most drag and drop programming is not accessible. Okay, Ebony, are you ready to run your code?
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about your code? What is it going to make the robot do?
It's going to make the robot go straight.
To run that code, what do you need to do?
I have to run it.
So why don't you go ahead and do that? So she's doing Control R. And I heard the sound. I'm going to hope that that transferred because the cord came out. But we're switching over to 0. So there's a 0 on the robot now because she hit the right button. And we know that it needs to be on the 0 to run the program. And now she's hitting the button. And it went forward and stopped. So this is a new concept. The Spike Robot programming is on the Quorum webpage. What's one of the other things that you've done with the robot so far, Ed?
I made it spin and so.
Spinning in circles is one of the most favorite things that robot teams like to do. We have not crashed it yet, but we are fully using Quorum with the Spike Robot, so we wanted to celebrate and share that with you all today. Thanks for checking it out with us. Hi.
Hi, my name is Jack, and we are from the Maryland School for the Blind, and we are based in Baltimore.
Hey, I am Chelsea W, and this little fellow right here is called Kai.
Kai is a robot that is used to teach younger kids about coding. We code Kai by scanning each card. We built a Lego frame in the top right corner of the frame. There is a tactile marker so that all students will know which way to orient the frame. It keeps the cards from in the correct order.
On each card there is print, high contrast icons, and uncontracted braille. This provides support to all coders, and this helps the KaiBot do its special dance called the Kai Slide. The Kai Slide is a parody dance of the Cha-Cha Slide. The Kai Slide goes through the motions of the song, but in robot style.
Now I'm going to show you how Kai works. First, I'm going to scan the record start program and all of the other cards.
So each step of the code is on a different card that they have already laid out in a sequence in their frame. And the robot goes forward, the robot goes backwards.
Hi.
I'm Gina
Leslie,
Fugate. I'm a computer science and tech.
Leslie, there was a question in the chat, and I don't want to misspeak. They were asking, could you clarify which program the Spike robot was coded with?
Quorum. And we can put a link in the chat.
Technology teacher here at the Maryland School for the Blind. We're going to share a little bit of our coding experience with Quorum with you today. And here's two students here to share their experience.
I'm Tyler, I'm 16 years old, and I have a bit of experience with the Quorum programming language. I started out with no coding experience, quickly learned through APCSP course how to code simple projects. Also with the CSP widgets that were paralleled from code.org curriculum, using them and getting fascinated with how their accessibility changes the game with Quorum, because code.org does not have as much accessibility as Quorum does, and Quorum completely paralleled the curriculum for APCSP into a fully accessible environment for students to work with working code, but also as the class got further in broken code and try to fix it. And now we are at a point where we can share a demo.
Okay, that was an excellent summary. So you went from someone who wasn't coding at all,
Correct.
to an AP CSP course. So AP is Advanced Placement, CSP is Computer Science Principles. Sounds pretty technical. We have another student to share their experience. What could you add?
Well, my name is Olivia. I am 16 years old, and unlike Tyler, I actually started my coding journey with the .5U dogs of MSP. I started out with robotics, which is technically lower than APCSP, but yeah, I started off with some programming knowledge, but expanded on it to at APCSP. I think.
That's a really good point, Olivia. So the .5U Dogs is the first LEGO League team. It has been here since 2012 and is still going strong. Olivia, that was with LEGO EV3 and Quorum. So you went from handling robots. What was it like to switch over to an APCSP class, and how did you feel when you first started it?
First starting AP, like going from handling robots to handling pure code without anything physically with it, I'd say went smoother than some would expect. Yes, it was harder, but I also felt like it was a little easier because I guess it wasn't just jumping in from like a whole new thing. It was, we started out with some more basic stuff like output, loop, and stuff of that nature, to more advanced stuff as we went on. So, yeah, it wasn't that easy. Moreover, and in certain ways, it was kind of easier.
Okay,
So,
and
yeah.
that's a great summary. So both of you were younger coders, less experienced, and now you're more experienced. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we're using today, because I'm not sure that everyone would be familiar with it. So Tyler, what tools are you using?
So in front of me directly is a Monarch Braille display, which is a revolutionary device that was introduced in 2024 that has 10 lines of 32 cells on each line. So instead of you reading one line just on a standard Braille display, you have 10 lines of Braille in front of you. However, when you look at the screen visually, the code only shows the top 3 lines. There is not as much user intuitiveness with the visual screen. So they're definitely still working things out with the Monarch, but it is definitely a great tool, and I see it being very helpful in classroom settings.
Excellent. So on the Monarch, the area where the Braille lives is the membrane, and that allows you to see multiple lines of code. And how is that important when you're accessing code? Is spacing and structure important at all?
When you're accessing code, it's very important to be able to read it multi-line because you have several spaces. You have to keep up with indentation. Everything has to be spaced the same. Quorum luckily does not rely on spacing, so if you do mess up your spacing, but some programming languages are very specific about spacing, so if you have one wrong space, you can break the entire code.
Excellent. And then, Olivia, what do you have in front of you?
I have a text-based game on a laptop.
So a game on your laptop. So we're using a Windows 11 laptop with...
This, to my right, the Mantis Q40 from APH. It is a 40-cell one-line Braille display with a QWERTY keyboard. Again, another revolutionary device for those who need a QWERTY keyboard to type on instead of the Braille input. In my opinion, it makes it easier for students to use Braille displays. It makes students want to use their Braille displays more. And I can control the computer fully from this Braille display with keyboard commands, and everything that I am doing transfers directly over to there. So I can run this program from here. I press Control R to run it. I'm going to switch it to the console, and now we have the text-based game up on our screen. The first line says, "You find yourself in a dark forest. Do you go left or right? Type left or right." So then if you press Tab, like I'm going to do, you have your input, and Olivia, you can type in left or right.
So just to recap a little bit, the Mantis Braille display that Tyler has is paired over to the Windows laptop, and it's actually a pretty fun way to be able to collaborate on a computer, or even for a teacher to grab a laptop and look at it, and then for Tyler to still have access to the computer and to be able to navigate and manipulate content.
So after she wrote left, we have, "You walk down a path and encounter a cheerful squirrel playing a game. Do you join, share a snack, or play your whistle? Type join, snack, or whistle." So I'm going to tab over again to the input box here. Olivia is going to write her choice that she chooses, and then I'm going to press enter. And in real time, I can read what she is writing with my hands to see what she is writing, so I know what she's done, so I can press enter. And then I shift tab to go back, use the down arrow to see what it says after that. You share your snack with the squirrel, who rewards you with a map to a secret treasure. Your current inventory. Tin whistle. Would you like to play again? Type Y for yes or N for no.
So this is a pretty simple game, all in all. What are some of the computer science concepts that are being used?
So there are several loops involved. There are loops inside of loops, and technically loops are things that you can set up to have certain things repeat a certain number of times, repeat while something's happening, or repeat until something happens. And it's very simple. In Quorum, you just repeat the number of times, and then times. So, for example, if I could write repeat 2 times, write an output statement, and put the words end, and that is a fully working program that we can use. And if I run that, it'll run in my output console.
Excellent, Tyler. Olivia, would it be possible for Quorum to have a game, but to include images? And what would we need to think about if we did that?
Yes, it would. You'd be able to include images. However, you would have to, 1, find the image, 2, insert it into the game. Oh, before you insert it, you have to make sure you have an alt tag with it. Then insert the image, and then you have it. Like several times anyway.
So, yeah, you could totally make a game with images, and you're exactly right. You want to include alt text. So one of the rumors about Quorum and sometimes other programming languages is that they're not as capable. What would you two say about that? We'll start with Olivia. What if there's somebody out there, Olivia, who thinks Quorum is limited, or they're not sure that they're a coder?
Well, I think Quorum's a great place to start, especially if you're not very familiar with coding in general, because Quorum has less syntax than other programming languages tend to do, meaning syntax in plain English is the amount of typing you have to do. So you don't have to worry about having to type so much when you just want to do one thing. So,
Tyler, what would you add to that?
my addition to that is that, yes, people may say quorum is limited, but in reality, it expands horizons because it is the first fully accessible programming language. For a while, you look at, programming languages like code.org or Python or Java, and they're all drag and drop, or they have several visual elements. With Quorum, it's fully keyboard based, and you just type in your code, and you can change it to blocks or you can change it to text, depending on your style of learning, how you want things to visually appeal. And I personally have it set on text, but for somebody like Olivia, she uses blocks because she has functional vision. I do not.
Well, I can use blocks. I mainly use blocks when I am viewing code, but when I write code, I use text so I can accurately match what my peers use. Because most of my peers all my peers in the APCSP class that I was in use text. So I use that to match when I was creating my projects or adding to something that they were working on.
That's some excellent points, Olivia. So being able to switch back and forth between blocks and text is a choice that's available in Quorum. It can work with a screen reader. It can work without a screen reader. If you're on the block side, you can drag and drop those blocks. So there's a lot going on with Quorum, and just because you get started with Quorum doesn't mean you have to stick with one language. Most coders know more than one language. So we really encourage everyone to take a look at Quorum. It was born accessible and has been maintained by a really strong team. We hope that this helps people get more comfortable with coding, and feel free to reach out with us with any questions.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Well, that brings us to our end, essentially. We have a couple of resources for everyone. I wanted to thank Gina for sending us those videos, because we really got to see some things in action and hear the stories from students in high school doing AP classes, and hopefully this will encourage others. Okay. Thank you. So if you are interested in learning more about a day of code, or wanting to host a day of code, and as you could see from these lovely presenters, it doesn't have to be a full day. It can fit the needs that you have. There is a QR code on the screen that will take you to a quick, really 3-question interest form, so I can keep everybody organized and I can reach out to you and answer your questions. There's also a link that can be dropped into the chat. So I'll leave that just for a second. Everybody gets that opportunity. And let's look at our other resources that I want to leave you with today. There are several other Access Academy webinars that might be of interest to you, and there are some links to those that we will also drop in the chat. You can always go to our YouTube channel and look for some playlists around these things as well. In fact, there are several that are specifically for adults learning to code for the first time, but also to expand their knowledge of Python. Okay, next. And of course, there is the APH Hive There's some specific courses around the abacus, for example, so you can really build up some math skills. But there's also an intro to Code Jumper. It's called Code Jumper Unplugged. And there is also an accessible coding community in the professional communities section where you can find a whole bunch of other resources as well as a discussion board to connect with other people who may have your same questions or may have the answers to your questions. Next.
Leslie, that's the last slide I have.
Oh, there was supposed to be one more. Oh, well.
You cannot. There you go.
Ah, yes. And this is how you get to the Hive. This is a QR code that will take you straight to the Hive. You do need a free account, but again, it is free. And though you do not need the account to access the professional communities, just the discussion boards and courses, which do have ACVREP credit attached to them if that is something you need or want. And with that, that wraps up our recap of a day of code. I want to thank everyone who participated this year. I was just blown away by all of the participation and all of the great ideas that came out of this. And as you could see, it's not just about APH products. It's whatever you can do, whatever you can make work. We just want to provide you that access and support.
Thank you, Leslie. I just wanted to once again thank everyone for joining us today. Again, thank you to our sponsors, the Fox Family Foundation and PPG, which all of this would not be possible without their generous support. We would also like to offer a huge thank you to all of our guest speakers for today and for sharing their experiences with their Days of Code events. Hopefully you got a little bit of a flavor for what something like this might look like in your community, and your gears are turning and how you might be able to make this work no matter where you are. Like to also wish all of you a wonderful rest of the day. I'm going to go ahead and pause our recording at this time.